Well, hello there folks, how are you? It's lovely to see you and thank you very much for popping over just to check out this wee recipe. I do hope that I find you well and you're having a good day. So up today for you I've got these Aberdeenshire butteries, or they're also known as Rowies, or they've even been called Scottish croissants. So whatever you decide to call them, these are absolutely wonderful. It's a bread roll basically, and typically eaten for breakfast. You know, they're not normally sliced through the middle. You just sort of spread whatever you want on the top of it. You know, it might be butter, jam, or both, but they are, you know, they're quite well known for being quite calorific, but they are absolutely delicious. So this is everything that I've used here, but as usual, all of these ingredients will be in the show more box underneath the video. The first thing I've got is some lukewarm water. I'm also using plain flour, salted butter, a wee bit of lard, and some dried yeast, a wee bit of brown sugar, and some extra salt as well. And that's it. You know, it's a really basic recipe, but it's quite time consuming, but in my opinion, well worth it. So pop your flour into a bowl. Like I said, this is plain flour, and to this we're going to add the yeast, and I'm also going to add some salt and then the sugar, but I'm using brown sugar, but you can use white sugar if you prefer, or if you don't have any brown sugar. You know, it doesn't make a great deal of difference. Just pop everything in with your flour and then give it a good mix through just to make sure everything is well combined. Now to this we're going to add the water. Now make sure you don't use cold water. I actually used warm water and I let it cool down a wee bit. So you're looking for lukewarm water, definitely not cold water, or it won't work. So yeah, just use some lukewarm water and you'll be fine. Just give that a gentle stir together until you've got a nice shaggy dough. This is quite a sticky dough, but it shouldn't be sticking to your hands too much. And don't worry if you think it looks dry, because it won't be by the time you get the butter and the lard in there. So you just want to knead this just a few times to get it into a rough sort of ball shape. And again, don't worry if you think yours is looking quite dry, because it won't be in the end. Pop this into a well-oiled bowl just so that it doesn't stick. Cover this with cling film. You want to let this prove for about an hour to an hour and a half in a nice warm space. I like to leave my oven on for 5 minutes and then turn it off, and that's usually, you know, a nice warm space. I just pop my bowl in there and just leave it to do its thing. This took about an hour and it has doubled in size, so this was ideal. So once you're happy with your dough, you can go over to your bowl, and now you want to mix together your fat, so your butter and also your lard. And I just use a fork to combine these two. Just make sure both are at room temperature and it will be quite easy. You won't need a machine or anything like that. And I just made sure mine's is kind of spreadable, so that when I put it onto my dough, you know, it doesn't make big holes or leave big holes in my dough as I'm spreading it on, because that's what we're going to do with this. So get back to your dough, take your cling film off and just knock all that gassy air out of your dough, just like this, using your fingers or your fist or whatever you like. Go over to your surface and make sure it's well floured. Tip out your dough, and you just want to shape this into a rectangle. I'm just flipping mine over, making sure it's well floured on each side, just so that it doesn't stick to the surface. Also make sure your rolling pin is floured as well, just to make sure nothing sticks to anything. So into a rectangle with this, I just like to bash the sides just to make it more of a rectangle. And on the one half of your dough, you want to pop about a quarter of your butter and just spread it down with a spoon all over. Then flip the top half of your dough over, and then the bottom half of your dough over on top of that, until you've got a sort of Swiss roll type looking thing. And then just flip it round, and you want to roll that all back again into another rectangle. We're going to do this 3 times, and this is what's going to give you the lovely layers, you know, the lovely buttery layers, and you will see at the end that, you know, the nice layers that we do end up getting. So I'm going to go out at the sides with this to make it a bit longer, just to change the direction of the layers. And I'm going to put on another wee bit of butter. So you want to do this in 3 stages, like I said. Smooth it again down with your spoon. Flip the top of your dough over and then the bottom half of your dough over, making a square this time. And then we're just going to do exactly the same thing. Like I said, it is quite time consuming this, but it's well worth it. You will get between 12 and 18 rolls from this, depending on how big you make them. So, you know, you do get quite a lot of rolls from your recipe, and it's really inexpensive to make as well. And it's usually things that you've already got. So this is your last rectangle. So I'm going to go in with the last of my butter, spreading it all over, just the same as before. Over with the top of your dough and over with the bottom of your dough, making another swish roll type shape. And flip it over again. You want to give it one last roll. You want to make this, you know, quite long, because we're going to split it down the middle and then divide it up into squares to get your rolls, just to make sure it's nice and even like this. So I was super happy with this. And by the way, this is the first time I'm attempting this recipe, so if I can do this, anyone can do this. I'm just using a palette knife there, and I'm just sort of roughly dividing it up into 12 pieces. It doesn't have to be exact, because these things are very irregular. You know, you'll never find them in uniform shapes. They're never completely round or square or triangle. They come in all shapes and sizes, so you don't have to be too particular with the weights of these wee chaps. Just cut them into whatever size you like. And I was happy with these, and I get 12 large butteries out of my dough. So just go in with 4 of your fingers and just sort of flatten them out, or if you want them a bit rounder, you can pull it out, you know, at the sides to make it rounder. It's completely up to you, but I was happy with these. Like I said, I was going for nice irregular rolls, because like I said, that's the way you will find them here or in Aberdeen. Aberdeen is actually on the northeast of Scotland. We're in the west coast, so Aberdeen is quite away from us. But I used to live in Aberdeen or Peterhead years and years, many years ago, so I am familiar with these. I just have never made them myself. The last thing we're going to do is sprinkle some sea salt just on the top to make them extra salty, and you want to give them a second proof. So pop them back into your warm space or your warm place for another 40 or 45 minutes, and as you can see, they have puffed up a good bit. So I'm just going to move mine over a wee bit, because they will spread out ever so slightly as they bake, and I don't want them all joining up together. It wouldn't be a disaster, but that's not what I was going for. So once you're happy, you can pop these into the oven. You want to leave these for about 20 to 25 minutes in the middle of the oven, and that is your temperatures there. And when they come out, they will look something like this. And don't they look wonderful? Look at all that buttery, flaky goodness. Now these are wonderful if you leave them about 10 to 15 minutes to cool down, or you will burn the mouth off yourself, because these are roasting inside. But you can see all of those lovely layers there. And I will pull one apart in a wee minute just to let you see. So I had to do mine in 2 batches, because I've got quite a small oven and my oven trays are quite small. But you can just see they're absolutely perfect and just what I was looking for. Like I said, you can see all of the wonderful layers there. And the reason we've got that is because of all the folding and rolling and folding and rolling. You know, just make sure you fold and roll properly and you'll get the same effect. And just look at how fluffy these are inside. And this was more or less straight from the oven. I think I let these cool for about 5 minutes. But you can let these cool completely. You know, if you want to store them, just make sure you store them in an airtight container. But make sure they are fully cooled before you store them, you know, just so that they're not warm when they're going into your airtight container. Do let them get to room temperature if you're going to store them and you're not going to have them all at once. But really, I would suggest eating these, you know, right away or as soon as they are cool enough to eat, because they are, in my opinion, best when they're warm. So that was that wee easy recipe, and do let me know if you're planning on giving that one a go. They are a classic, not from my area, but they are a classic from Aberdeen. And just before I move on, I wanted to say, as usual, a massive thank you to the supporters of the channel over on my Patreon page, and to the channel members here on YouTube, and for everyone who leaves their lovely comments and for sharing the videos. And I know that a couple of you have shared my videos this week, so thank you very much for that. And I will catch up with you during the week for my wee meals of the week on Sunday, or even back next for my shopping unbagging, and I think it's going to be Aldi again. And if you're not following me over on Instagram yet, I'm What's for Tea 3 over there, and it would be lovely to see you, of course. So whenever you choose to join me again, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you off as soon back here on What's for Tea. So take care and bye for now. Bye now.